In the heart of Lagos, where noise and hustle never rest, there lived a couple whose lives, from a distance, looked perfect. Emeka was the kind of woman other women admired, bold, successful, and stylish. She ran one of the biggest foreign clothing stores in Lagos Island Market. Her shop, always buzzing, was filled with expensive clothes, loyal customers, and girls who looked up to her like a queen. Many knew her as Madame Lace because she sold the finest lace and ready-made wares straight from Turkey, Italy, and London. Her wealth wasn't hidden. It walked with her in the clink of her gold bangles and the way she always stepped out with poise. Her husband, Bright, on the other hand, was quiet, too quiet. He worked as a banker in a reputable financial institution and was known for always minding his business. He rarely spoke during family gatherings or outings. People often said, "That man is too calm, a gentle soul." He smiled politely, nodded often, and never raised his voice. Even Amaka's market friends would say, "You're lucky. At least your husband is not a talkative like ours." They had a daughter, Peace, their only child, beautiful, sharp, and loved dearly by both parents. But behind closed doors, Amaka lived a different life. Sometimes she would come to the market with a scarf around her neck when it wasn't even cold. Other times she wore large sunglasses that hid one eye. Her shop assistants would whisper, "Madam, what happened?" And she'd quickly laugh it off. "Oh, I slipped in the bathroom," she'd say. Or, "Peace accidentally hit me in the face while we were playing." The excuses kept changing, but the pain remained the same. No one ever suspected Bright, not the neighbors, not the market women, not even her siblings. After all, the man was as gentle as a dove. What could he possibly do? But the truth was darker. In that house, silence was her prison. She never spoke of it, not because she couldn't, but because she wouldn't. She was trying to protect the image of the man she married, the man who once adored her, the man who, at some point, became a stranger with fists. On the outside, everything in their home looked perfect. The house was beautiful and peaceful. It was filled with laughter, food, and love, at least during the day. Peace, their only daughter, believed her family was the best in the world. Her father, Bright, was her hero. He helped with her homework, packed her school lunch, and always asked about her day. To Peace, her daddy was the kindest man on earth. He never shouted. He never got angry. He always smiled. She once told her friend at school, "My daddy can't even hurt a fly." The houseworkers felt the same way. The cook, Mrs. Reese, often said, "Mr. Bright is so kind and respectful. If all men were like him, the world would be a better place." The security man, Musa, always greeted him with joy and respect. "Good morning, sir," he'd say with a big smile, happy to open the gate for him. They all thought Bright was the perfect husband and father, calm, polite, and peaceful. But Peace knew something was wrong. At night, when the house was quiet, she would hear her parents arguing from their bedroom. Her mother's voice was always the loudest. Sometimes she sounded angry, other times like she was crying. Then suddenly there would be silence, followed by a heavy sound, like something falling or someone being pushed. Peace would hide under her blanket and cry. She didn't fully understand what was going on, but she knew it wasn't right. Her heart would beat fast and her hands would shake. She didn't know how to explain the fear she felt. Some nights she tiptoed to her door and listened, but she was always too scared to go closer. Then in the morning, everything would seem normal again. Her parents would sit at the dining table, smiling, drinking tea, and acting like nothing had happened. Her mother would laugh and serve breakfast. Her father would give Peace a hug and tell her to have a great day at school. Peace would watch them and feel confused. Her mother's face would be covered in makeup, and her eyes sometimes looked tired or swollen. But she never said a word about the night before. The houseworkers were also confused. Sometimes they heard strange noises at night, a bang, a cry, a loud argument. But in the morning, the house was calm again. Mrs. Reese once said to the security man, "Do you think Madam is okay?" Her eyes looked red this morning. Musa shook his head. "Maybe she's just tired," he replied. "Mr. Bright is too gentle to ever hurt anyone." But what they didn't know was that silence can hide many things. And behind the man everyone loved was a secret that was slowly breaking a woman apart. One hot afternoon, Amaka's best friend Ify stopped by her shop unannounced. They had been friends since secondary school, more like sisters than friends. And Ify was one of the few people who truly knew Amaka before the wealth and fame. The shop was busy as usual, customers browsing imported clothes and staff running around. But when Ify stepped in and saw Amaka behind the counter, wearing oversized sunglasses indoors, she knew something wasn't right. She walked over and gave her a long, quiet hug. "Amaka," she said softly, looking closely at her friend's face. "Why are you wearing dark glasses inside your own shop?" Amaka smiled quickly, brushing it off. "Ah, Ify, leave me, Jare. The sun outside gave me a headache, and these glasses help." But Ify wasn't convinced. She reached out and gently removed the glasses before Amaka could stop her. There it was, a fresh scar above her cheekbone, slightly covered with makeup but still visible. Ify's heart dropped. "Amaka," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "Is Bright hitting you?" Amaka quickly looked away, adjusting her glasses again. "No, no, no. It's not what you think." "Then what is it? Please tell me the truth. You're my friend. If he's hurting you, I can help you." Amaka shook her head firmly. "Nothing is wrong. I was just careless. I hit my face on the wardrobe while reaching for a box." Ify stared at her for a long time. "You don't have to lie to me. I'm not the public. I'm your friend." But Amaka kept defending her husband. "Bright would never hurt me. He loves me. Things are just stressful right now, that's all." Ify knew her friend was hiding the truth. Her body language said more than her words ever could. Out of deep concern and fearing for her friend's safety, Ify made a hard decision. That evening, she visited Amaka's parents and told them everything she had seen and suspected. They were shocked. The next day, Amaka's parents called for a private meeting. Amaka and Bright came together, sitting side by side in her father's living room. Her mother served drinks with trembling hands. Her father looked calm but serious. "Bright," her father began, "we called this meeting because we're worried about our daughter. She doesn't look happy anymore. She's covering bruises. We need to know what is going on in your marriage." Bright looked up slowly, meeting their eyes. His face was calm, almost too calm. "Daddy, Mummy," he said gently, "everything is fine. There is no problem in our marriage. Amaka is just tired. She works too hard." He reached out and took Amaka's hand, squeezing it. "She's my wife. I love her. I'll never hurt her." Amaka's mother looked at her daughter, hoping she would speak up. Say something, anything. But Amaka just nodded slowly. "Yes, everything is fine," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. And once again, the silence covered the truth like a blanket. But this time, the people closest to her were starting to notice the cracks. One Saturday night, the noise started again. It started like the others, with silence. Around 11 p.m., the shouting began again. This time it was louder than ever. From every corner of the house, the kitchen, the boys' quarters, the maid's room. Everyone could hear it. Bright's voice roared. Amaka's voice screamed back. Doors slammed, something shattered, but no one could make out what exactly was being said. Mrs. Reese, the cook, sat frozen in the kitchen, spoon in hand, unable to finish washing the pot she was holding. Musa stood near the front gate, wide-eyed, listening. Even Peace, trembling in her room, pressed her pillow to her ears, tears slipping down her cheeks. They had heard arguments before, but this was different. This wasn't just shouting. This was a war. Then suddenly, silence again. The next morning, the sun rose as if nothing had happened. But something had changed. Amaka came down the stairs dressed for church. She wore a simple blue gown, black flat shoes, and large sunglasses. Again. Her face was calm, her steps controlled. Peace followed her, silent and close, holding her Bible tightly. She didn't say much to the house staff, just a quiet, "We'll be back later," as she walked out the door with her daughter. At church, people greeted her as usual. The pastor smiled and said, "Good morning, Sister Amaka. Where is your husband today?" She smiled, a rehearsed smile, and replied, "He's feeling a bit under the weather. He decided to rest." The pastor nodded, not suspecting a thing, but Amaka knew this was the last time she would cover for Bright. As soon as they got home, She didn't even change her clothes. She went straight to the bedroom, pulled out 2 suitcases, and began to pack. Peace stood by the door, quietly watching her mother fold clothes with shaking hands. "Are we leaving, Mummy?" she asked softly. "Yes," Amaka said. "We're going to Grandpa's house." An hour later, she arrived at her parents' home. Her mother opened the door and saw Amaka and Peace standing there with bags. She didn't need to ask. She just pulled her daughter into a hug and said, "You're home." In the living room, Amaka finally let it out. With tears in her eyes, she told her parents everything. Son, the bruises, the fear, the nights she cried in silence, the pain she had hidden for years. "I'm done," she said firmly. "I'm filing for a divorce. I'm not going back." Her parents didn't argue. They didn't beg her to endure or pray it away. They held her hands and said, "We're proud of you for walking away. No man has the right to treat our daughter like that." By the next day, Amaka had shared her story with a few friends in the media. The blogs picked it up first. Popular Lagos businesswoman opens up about abusive banker husband. Bright, the banker known for his calm demeanor, accused of years of domestic abuse. It didn't take long before social media exploded. Her story was everywhere. People were shocked. Friends, neighbors, even old classmates. Bright, the soft-spoken, well-dressed, mild-mannered banker. It didn't make sense to them. "This must be a mistake," some said. "Bright that can't even raise his voice?" Others supported Amaka. "No woman leaves her home and brings shame unless she's been pushed to the wall." But 1 week passed, then 2, and something strange happened. Bright didn't show up at work. At first, everyone at the bank thought he's staying away to avoid the public eye. After all, the scandal was huge. His picture was all over the blogs and the comments were brutal. But by the 7th working day of his absence, the company got worried. Bright was a senior staff. He had never missed work without notice. Ever. They tried calling his phone. Switched off. They tried emailing him. No response. Finally, someone called Amaka. "Hello, Ma. We're trying to reach Mr. Bright. He hasn't been to work and we're very concerned. Do you happen to know where he is?" Amaka took a deep breath. "I moved out," she said quietly, "and I haven't seen or spoken to him since the night I left. Maybe he's hiding. I don't know. Maybe he can't face the world now." The office thanked her and hung up. But behind the scenes, unease was growing. Nobody could find Bright. And now, people started to wonder, where was he? Bright's brother, Joseph, sat on the edge of his bed, phone in hand, staring at the screen for the 100th time that morning. Still switched off. He had called Bright's number so many times his call log was full of nothing else. Each one ended the same way. No ring, no voicemail. Just silence. His heart pounded with worry. Not anger, not shame. Worry. Bright was his only sibling. Their parents had died years ago, and they'd always leaned on each other through life's storms. They weren't just brothers. They were each other's only family. Joseph couldn't believe what he was seeing online. His brother, Bright, accused of beating his wife for years. "This isn't my brother," Joseph whispered to himself. But the pictures, the news, the interviews with Amaka, they all told a different story. A painful, honest story that was too detailed to ignore. Still, something didn't feel right. Bright couldn't just disappear. Joseph left his house and drove straight to Bright's home. When he arrived, the gate was unlocked. The compound was unusually quiet. He knocked. Mrs. Reese, the cook, came out slowly, holding her apron in one hand and wiping her eyes with the other. "Good afternoon, sir." "Good afternoon. Where is Bright?" Joseph asked quickly. She hesitated. "We haven't seen him since Sunday morning." "Sunday morning?" Joseph frowned. "You mean the Sunday after Amaka left?" "Yes. He came down early. Very early. Around 5 a.m. He didn't say a word to anyone, just walked out. We thought maybe he was going to church or somewhere private." "And he hasn't returned?" "No, sir. His car is gone too. No message. No call. Nothing." Joseph looked around the house. Everything still and untouched. His chest tightened. "He wouldn't run away," he said aloud. "Bright wouldn't just vanish like this." But he had. and Joseph knew he couldn't sit and wait any longer. The next morning, he went to the police station and reported his brother missing. At first, they didn't take him seriously. One officer leaned back in his chair and scoffed. Missing? Or hiding? You know your brother is trending online for domestic abuse. Half the country wants him in jail. Joseph shook his head. I understand what you've seen in the news. I've seen it too. But I know my brother. Something is wrong. He didn't even try to defend himself. The officer replied, maybe because he knows there's nothing to defend. You should be praying we find him, because if we do, he's going straight to prison for what he did. Another officer joined in. You know how these rich men behave. They act gentle in public, then become monsters at home. Let him keep hiding. Sooner or later, he'll surface. Joseph clenched his fists, trying to keep calm. Please, I'm just asking you to treat this as a missing person case. He's not answering his phone. He's not at work. He hasn't spoken to anyone. Don't you think that's strange? But the more he spoke, the colder their expressions became. Joseph realized something then. If he pushed too hard, he might make things worse. The more he insisted Bright wasn't guilty, the more suspicious they might become. He could end up helping them build a case against his brother. So with a heavy heart, he thanked them and walked out of the station. He stood outside in the heat, his hands shaking. His brother was missing. No one believed him, and the world had already made up its mind. But deep inside, Joseph knew something wasn't adding up. Bright wasn't just hiding, something else was going on. Sergeant Lara wasn't like most officers. She had joined the police not just to wear a uniform, but because she had seen too many women suffer in silence. So when Joseph came to the station that morning, worried, desperate, and trembling, she paid attention, even though her colleagues didn't. She watched him leave, shoulders slumped, heart clearly broken. Something about his sincerity struck her. So later that evening, when her shift ended, she opened a fresh case file and wrote at the top, Missing Person, Bright Nwachukwu. The next morning, Sergeant Lara went to Bright's house. The compound was quiet. It looked like a normal home, but she had learned that the ugliest stories often came from the quietest places. The cook, Mrs. Racy, met her at the door and invited her in. I'm here to ask a few questions, Lara said gently, flashing her badge. I just want to understand what's been happening. She sat with both the cook and the gateman, Musa, at the back porch. Tell me about Mr. Bright, she began. They both nodded quickly. He's a good man, said Mrs. Racy. Very gentle. He doesn't talk much, always polite. Musa added, Yes, Ma. Oga is not like some other rich men. He greets us. He never shouts. Lara looked at them carefully. But the neighbors said they've heard arguments. Did you ever hear fighting? The two exchanged a look. Yes, sometimes at night, Mrs. Racy said. Madam's voice would be very loud. Sometimes she cried. But in the morning, everything looked normal again. Did you ever see Mr. Bright hit his wife? No, Musa replied quickly. Never. We only heard sounds, but we didn't see anything. Lara nodded, jotting things down in her notebook. Then she asked, When was the last time you saw him? Mrs. Racy thought for a moment. That Sunday morning, before Madam left. Around 5 a.m., we heard someone come downstairs. We believe it was Oga, but he didn't speak to anyone. He just left. That's the last we saw of him. Are you sure he left? Yes, said Musa. His car was gone. Lara paused, then asked something that made both of them think. Have you searched the house properly? Every room? Yes, Mrs. Racy said. We've checked everywhere. There's nothing. Then she stopped, her face suddenly changing. Actually, there's one room we didn't check. Lara leaned forward. Why not? It's always locked. Only Oga and Madam had the key. Nobody goes in there. Not even me. That made Lara's instincts kick in. A locked room in a house where someone just disappeared. She stood. Where is the room? They led her upstairs to the far end of the hallway. It was a plain wooden door, no markings. It looked like a storeroom, ordinary, harmless. But something about it felt off. Can I go in? Lara asked. I don't have the key. the maid replied. Only Olga did. Lara stared at the door for a long moment. Her hand rested on the doorknob. She turned it gently. Locked. She turned back to the staff. Thank you. I'll be back. On her way out, Lara made a call. Calm and clear. I need a search warrant. Urgent. This wasn't just a missing persons case anymore. Something about that locked room felt like the beginning of a truth that no one was ready for. Sergeant Lara wasted no time. She drove straight to the magistrate's office and submitted her application for a search warrant, carefully outlining the circumstances. A missing person, a locked room, a suspicious smell, and unanswered questions. The magistrate signed it. By afternoon, Lara was back at the house, this time with a full team and legal authority. They began searching. Room by room, they combed through drawers, cabinets, wardrobes, until they returned to that door at the end of the hallway. The one no one had the key to, the one only Mr. Bright and Amaka had ever opened. Lara gave a nod. One officer brought a crowbar. With one loud crack, the door gave way. The air changed instantly. A heavy, foul smell poured out of the dark room. Everyone covered their noses. As they stepped inside, the scent grew stronger. There was a study inside. A desk, 2 bookshelves, and a couch. Papers scattered, a broken wine glass on the floor. And then they saw him, Mr. Bright, lying motionless, half curled on the floor beside the couch. His body had started to decay. And there, lodged into the side of his head, was a small but deadly piece of sharp metal. A heavy paperweight, the kind people use on office desks. The room went still. For all the noise he had endured in life, Bright died in complete silence. Lara closed her eyes. Call it in. Secure the area. No one leaves. Within the hour, the maid and gateman were arrested. So was Amaka. Everyone was a suspect. The house became a full crime scene. At the station, Amaka sat in the interrogation room, arms folded, eyes tired but unreadable. Lara stepped in, calm, collected. Tell me what happened, she said. Amaka looked down, then back up. I did it, she whispered. It was self-defense. That night he was going to kill me. We fought. He lost control. I had to defend myself. She stared blankly ahead. I hit him. I didn't mean to kill him. The confession was enough to charge her. The maid and gateman, after questioning, were found innocent and released. The news broke again. Only this time it was darker. A death. A wife who killed her husband. The country was divided. Some believed her. Others doubted her. But everyone agreed. Something didn't feel complete. Lara felt it too. Still unsettled, Lara returned to the house once more. She needed to ask one more question. The maid opened the door, clearly shaken. Lara lowered her voice. I need to know, did Bright ever seem violent to you? Like someone who could try to kill his wife? The maid shook her head. No, Mom. Olga never raised his voice. Not even to us. He was very quiet, always calm. Then why do you think Madam said he attacked her? The maid hesitated, then spoke carefully. Olga recently called someone to install a camera in their bedroom. I think he was suspecting Madam of something, maybe cheating. Lara's eyes narrowed. Did Madam know? He didn't tell her. He told me not to mention it. But I told him I had never seen another man come here. Madam was always alone. Lara paused. A camera. If Bright had a recording of that night, the truth might still be in this house. Lara raced back into the master bedroom. She examined every corner, every inch of the walls, furniture, ceiling fixtures. Then she spotted it, a fire detector, slightly newer than the others, with a small black dot that looked like a lens. She climbed up, removed it carefully, and there it was, a hidden spy camera. She took it to the digital forensics team. They pulled the files. Lara sat alone in the viewing room, watching the footage. And then, there it was. The night everything happened, Bright was sitting on the edge of the bed, calm but firm. I'm filing for divorce, he said to Amaka. I've had enough. I've been recording everything. I have the evidence now. Amaka was standing across the room, arms folded, breathing hard. You're joking, she said. You want to ruin me? I won't lie for you anymore. People think I'm the abuser, but I'm done hiding. Amaka exploded. I gave you everything, Bright. I made you. I got you your job. You were nothing before me. Bright stood. And now you're afraid the world will finally know the truth? She grabbed a metal object from the table. He tried to walk away. She struck him. Hard. Then again. And again. Until he collapsed on the floor. The camera kept rolling as she dragged his lifeless body across the hallway, into the study. Lara burst into the courtroom just as the judge was about to rule. Your Honor, she said urgently, there is new evidence the court must see before passing judgment. The judge allowed it. The room went dark. The footage played. The silence in the room was louder than the video. Peace covered her mouth in shock. Joseph froze in disbelief. Iffy turned pale. The jury watched with widened eyes. Amaka? She broke. She began to sob, loud, angry, ashamed. I didn't mean to, she shouted, but he was going to leave me. He wanted to expose me. I couldn't let him take everything I built. Tears fell. Everyone loved him more than me, even our daughter, even the staff. I became invisible in my own house, and I hated him for it. The courtroom watched in stunned silence. I would wear makeup to create bruises. I wanted people to think he was hurting me, so no one would know the truth, that I was the one hurting him, that I was the abuser. She dropped to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. In the end, the court ruled Amaka guilty of second-degree murder and intentional defamation. She was sentenced. Peace was placed in the care of Bright's brother, Joseph. Public opinion shifted again, this time in regret. The man everyone loved had been destroyed by lies, buried by silence, and judged by a world that didn't wait for the truth. But the truth came, late but loud, and Sergeant Lara. She closed her case file and stared out the station window. Her job wasn't just to catch criminals, it was to listen when no one else would, to chase facts, not feelings, to give voice to the voiceless, even when that voice had been silenced forever. And in the end, the truth proved what few had dared to say. Bright didn't die because he was cruel. He died because no one believed he wasn't. The end. If this story touched your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and comment your thoughts below. And if you're new here, subscribe to Folktales Central, where true emotions meet unforgettable stories. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we bring hearts to life.